Today, we're joined by Nick Jain from IdeaScale, a leading SaaS solution for innovation management. Nick is here to discuss how organizations can innovate better through idea mediocrities. With his expertise in fostering collaborative innovation, Nick will share insights on leveraging collective intelligence to drive meaningful change in your organization. So, with that, Nick, welcome to the Software Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, no, I know our audience has been looking forward to this one. We've actually taken some questions and we'll try to incorporate some of that into our dialogue. But to start off with, I was hoping you can explain a bit about what an idea meritocracy is and how it relates to innovation and the problem that you're solving with IdeaScale.
Sure. Thanks. That's a great question to start out with. So, an idea meritocracy is an organization or culture where good ideas rise to the top and get done, no matter where they come from, whether they come from a junior person, whether they come from somebody on the other side of the world, somebody who speaks differently than you or looks differently than you. Now, this is atypical in most organizations. Really, the ideas get done are the ideas that come from either senior people or who fit into whatever that organization's innate culture is. Right. So if you're, CEO, your ideas get done. If you are very aligned with or you look a certain way, your ideas are more likely to get done than if you look a different way or you speak broken English or whatever the language of that organization is. That's bad, right? Organizations where the best ideas win tend to outperform over the long run. There's a huge body of research in that. And moving from a traditional hierarchical world or organizational structure to one where good ideas get done is a big both cultural and process transformation. And that's what we exist to support our clients in doing on the tech side specifically.
Sure, no, that makes a lot of sense. And can you kind of give me a little bit of the backstory or the history of how IdeaScale came to be?
Sure. So we've been around about 15 years now, and now we serve hundreds of Fortune 500 companies and major government organizations. But our origins actually are quite humble. So back in 2008, when President Obama was in office, President Obama made a note or came out with a big initiative saying, "Hey, government is not very innovative. Government is, in some cases, doing the same thing agencies were doing 200 years ago. So let's make government more innovative." And that's where the initiatives like Data.gov and so on came out with. And so our co-founders, Rob and Viv, um, they realized, hey, if government is going to be more innovative, they need tools and technology to do so more effectively. And so that's how IdeaScale was founded, because of this President Obama initiative where government wanted to be innovative and we wanted to create technology to support that. In fact, actually, one of our first customers was actually the White House, and the White House chief of staff actually published that IdeaScale was the solution that was powering their innovation. So we were
Wow.
off to the races with kind of a pretty big start where like the number,
Yeah.
3 or 4 person in the country said, hey, these guys are the ones that'll help you innovate. And so since then, we've obviously advanced a lot, grown our technology, improved our feature set, et cetera. But our origin was really helping governments innovate. Now, we still do that. That's a huge part of our business. We work with U.S. Postal Service, Transportation Safety Authority, Coast Guard, pretty much any major U.S. government organization, we're working with them, but also now a ton of private sector organizations, both within the U.S. and overseas.
So can you walk me through the day of a life of a client? Like, how does the platform facilitate the creation of idea meritocracies within an organization that might be rolling it out? Like,
Yeah.
what's the nuts and bolts of it?
So the way practically our software is basically a social network for ideas. So if you think about TikTok, for example, right? People around the world submit funny videos or interesting videos. Videos get upvoted and downvoted based on the views, the likes, etc. And the most viral videos get rise to the top, and that's what shows up on your recommended screen. Now imagine that, replace funny dance videos with good ideas on how to improve your organization. So instead of funny dance video, it could be, hey, here's a process improvement for your factory, or here's a way how to deliver better services to your constituents, or here's a new toy product if you're a big toy company. So users around you, when people use our software, they add a whole bunch of their users. They add a whole bunch of employees or customers to their IdeaScale community all of those users can submit ideas, vote, and comment on other people's ideas. And then the best ideas rise to the top based on both a mix of qualitative factors, votes, and quantitative assessment metrics that are useful to that organization.
Interesting. And it absolutely makes sense. I can see that, especially in a distributed workforce where you have individuals within your organization in different departments, different locations, different countries, so important. So in terms of crunching down the data and coming to insight, is there a lot of algorithms and tech behind it? Is it based on AI? How does it crunch down
Sure.
all of that, the
So
data?
yes and no. The answer is yes and no. Right? The version of the current version of our software and the way it's worked over the last kind of 15 years is that really there's been very limited AI and much more about, let's rank you based on the number of vote, or rank an idea, not the person, based on the number of votes, the number of likes, the number of views, the number of comments, as well as the quantitative metrics that that organization put in based on their goals. And goals may differ from, Pfizer will have different goals than the US Post Office, right? So that's how it's historically been working. In actually about 2 or 3 months, we are very excited to release our AI feature, which takes your qualitative data and analyzes it. Because if you think about it, if for anyone who's in data analytics, it's very easy to crunch numbers, right? You can add numbers, multiply numbers, divide numbers. I'm a theoretical math major. Like numbers are
Sure.
easy, but analyzing qualitative data, like what is the value of ideas? How do you compare two different ideas that may be on two different things, right? How do you compare the value of a company mascot idea to the value of a new product? One is marketing, one is product. The new AI analytics feature, which we're putting out, I think we haven't officially announced a release date, but approximately around January. What it will allow you to do is it will take all of the data that is already existing within your idea community. So all of those comments, all of those ideas, all of those votes, and then figure out both trends, themes, as well as which ideas are most valuable for your organization specific goals, which again will be different from your organization versus my organization.
I love it. Yeah, and that is a perfect use of AI. I mean, drawing insight from large sets of data, that is, you know, the ideal use. In fact, we had, I don't know if you remember back in the day, Trello was one of the first productivity apps, and on the podcast we had Stella Garber, who was on their founding team, and I think they just sold a solution a couple of years ago to Atlassian, but she's working on a new team developing a, a Trello-like solution for productivity, but it's based on AI. So the core functionality of the solution is based on AI, and it's designed around that. Whereas you can imagine on the podcast, we talk to so many companies that are just trying to figure out how they can stuff AI into their solution. But the reality of it is, the right way to do it is to find an effective use of AI that, you know, takes advantage of some of the capabilities that may not be out there. So for
Okay, actually,
companies,
one quick comment
yeah,
about
yeah,
stuffing AI into everything. That was certainly a temptation we faced a year ago because everybody
sure,
started saying, we're X.AI or add AI to your web address or
exactly.
name, or just stuff the feature in there so you can tell your customers our technology uses AI. When I talk to the Gartner and G2 and all those folks, they're like, "How to use AI and everything," and we're like, we haven't stuffed it into it. We've tried to be very thoughtful about where we'll put it rather than just adding some random AI feature. Because look, it's easy enough for anybody to go to ChatGPT or Gemini and just use those for like basic things. We're not just going to stuff AI for the sake of stuffing it in there.
Yeah, and especially with the history your team has, and the types of organizations you're working with. So I guess another question is, for an organization that we're looking to launch something like IdeaScale, where were they before? What are the tools that they were using? What was it that they were trying to do? And how does this change the entire process for them? And
Sure. I'll say we typically when a client starts with us, they're coming from one of two places. First is they have no innovation program, no innovation strategy. It may be in their mission statement to be innovative, but they've never done anything about it. Um, that's number one. And so they're really coming to us and saying like, okay, we want to be innovative. What do we do? Right. And so there's a whole bunch of process, culture, and technology steps. We really focus, as I said, on the technology step. We'll do a little bit on the process and culture side, but really we, encourage them to either hire internal experts or hire consulting firms for the pure cultural transformation part of it. So that's group number one, where they are literally starting from nothing. They don't have an innovation program or a formal innovation strategy with real like actions behind it. They may, have platitudes, but no actions. The
Sure.
second is people who have innovation programs that have started. They have innovation professionals or they have processes that are integrated into their other departments to be innovative, but now they need actual tools and technology, right? You may be a great carpenter, you may have all the skills in the world, but you want a good set of hammers and saws and power tools. And so the second set of people are folks who've already started their innovation journey. They may have an innovation department or innovation integrated into their other process and cultural practices, but now they're looking to supercharge it with a good technological solution. And usually those people that have an innovation program, the tech solution they're migrating from are one of three things: either literal pen and paper, like 3M post-it notes, where people put ideas in a suggestion box; Excel, where some poor person has to maintain basically a database in Excel, um, not even a SQL database; and then
Yeah.
thirdly is Google Forms, which, by the way, then goes into Google Sheets, which is basically just Excel.
Right. I love it. I love it.
So
So
we are, the joke I like to make is, in the same way that Salesforce replaced Rolodexes in the early 90s,
yeah.
innovation's a little bit further behind. Unfortunately, we are replacing 3M post-it notes.
Yeah. No, and it obviously is something that any organization that's transitioning from where they are to where they're heading needs to take seriously. I mean, I think it obviously is an important component. It's no longer organizations that are strictly from the top down. I think everyone needs to be involved in all of these different initiatives in order to get buy-in from everybody within the organization. So, are there some common challenges that you see companies facing when they're trying to implement an idea, to move things forward or to implement a solution like this?
Sure. So I think there were like three different questions. I'll break
Yeah,
it down. So firstly, implementing an idea actually once it's noted as a good idea is actually the easiest part, right? Once someone says, "Hey, this is a good idea, we're going to get it done," there's all sorts of great. Most companies at this point have some sort of PMO, project management office, somebody who gets stuff done, right? But coming up with a good list of what you actually should do is the difficult part of innovation, right? Once you've invented the object or invented the process, it's actually pretty easy to go implement it. So in terms of implementing an innovation process or an idea management solution like ours, I think we encounter three common challenges that people face. Number one is a cultural shift from a hierarchical idea-based culture to a idea meritocracy. Because a lot of the senior people's voices decrease a little bit in power. So, like, for example, when we use our own software, I will post my ideas about engineering or about marketing or about product, and sometimes those ideas get downvoted and they don't get done. And
sure.
because my employees, my customers are saying, "Hey, Nick, that's a terrible idea." And by the way, I can submit this anonymously. Usually, I just submit it under my own name, but people at IdeaScale feel comfortable voting down the CEO's ideas, and that's an important culture. We're very proud of that, but that's not necessarily true at other organizations, right? And when they're making that transition from, "Hey, whatever the CEO says gets done, even if it's bad," to, "Hey, we only do good ideas at this organization," that's a cultural shift, and that requires people to let go of their egos a little bit and just transform how the organization communicates and values ideas. That's number one, kind of that cultural shift away. Um, Number two is, okay, how do you incentivize people to innovate? And this is a cultural shift on the other side where, okay, how do you in most organizations, people are disenfranchised or disillusioned. They know nobody cares about their ideas. They've been dealing with it. They've been there for 10, 5, 10, 2, 5, 10, 20 years. No one's listened to their idea. So why are they going to listen today? And so why should they contribute? And so you actually have to incentivize people to contribute. And you can do that through money. You can do that through recognition. You can do that through promotions. You can do that just through acknowledgement that, hey, if your ideas are good, they're going to get done. And that's hugely impactful because people love seeing their ideas come into the real
Sure,
world.
sure.
Um, and then the third is actually valuing ideas. So Organizations, unfortunately, and it's such an easy common pitfall, like they value ideas based on how good they sound, right? How well they're presented, right? It could be because they came out of the mouth of a charismatic person, or because, hey, this idea just sounds very attractive and simple to do, rather than evaluating ideas on some sort of hard metrics. Hard metrics could be number of votes or so it's moving away from kind of evaluating ideas based on gut feel or perception to some sort of quantitative analysis of, hey, is this idea actually good or not? Now, some companies are great at doing this, right? Like some companies on this third point, like pharmaceutical companies and oil companies tend to be very good at this because when they're drilling $1 billion well, they put in a lot of analysis about whether to drill a well here or drill a well here. And same with pharmaceutical companies, whether to launch drug A, B, or C. Most other organizations tend to be less effective at doing that. And so it's a cultural shift to being more analytical about deciding what gets done.
So, out of curiosity, when IdeaScale launched initially, was the target ideal customer profile really enterprise level clients or
So
small
when we launched,
businesses, or what
no,
was
well,
the
we launched
original?
from the President Obama initiative. So
Okay,
our initial, dozen customers or so were solely U.S. federal government customers.
sure,
Today, now we are pretty much any sector. So we are in pharma, energy, finance, education, nonprofit, like Doctors Without Borders, Pfizer, Comcast, U.S. Post Office.
sure.
Every large organization struggles with more or less the same challenges that I've talked about, and therefore we're kind of relevant in any large organization, medium or large scale organization.
That's really exciting. I mean, to see the solution take off from an early start like that, and obviously a running head start into a whole range of different types of organizations. And it's interesting because, from even looking at it from this end, when I originally launched Software Oasis, the focus was on downloadable software for businesses to license across their networks and really taking feedback from our customers. The real need, as it's evolved to what it is today, was finding consulting companies that could provide solutions for the software within those organizations. So whether it was integrating or automating or getting rid of redundancies or, streamlining a lot of different processes, because I think there's not a company out there that doesn't have more software in their organization than they could possibly ever really use. I think they really need solutions. So that's interesting. We've put together a community of literally 500 of the top consulting companies, specifically here in the U.S. So it's all U.S.-based consulting companies, but really interesting. So how does the concept of meritocracy differ from traditional, and I think we touched on this a little bit, but traditional top-down innovation approaches? Like if you were to kind of bullet point the big wins for organizations by using this type of structure.
Sure. So I think three things happen. Number one, you on average get significantly better ideas. And that, so just setting aside, I'm going to discuss some of the softer benefits in a moment, but the first most important benefit is you just get better ideas when you're like voting ideas based on or evaluating ideas based on their own merits rather than whose mouth they came out,
Sure.
right? Uh, so that's number one. You just get materially better ideas. There's tons of academic and economic research on this. Harvard Business School has published, or Harvard Business Review has published a bunch of research on this. There have been in economics journals, etc. You can look at the research into prediction markets. That when you let people vote and evaluate ideas, even if 1,000, non-experts combined intelligence is like an order of magnitude better than 10 experts. So idea meritocracy just results in better outcomes for the organization. That means higher ROI, private sector, more effective serving your constituents in the public or nonprofit sector. Number two is you actually get people more engaged, right? When at kind of an employee retention or employee happiness level, you get people more engaged um, when their voices are heard. And number three, kind of you get more diversity both in thought and where those thoughts are coming from. So a lot of people, over the past, let's say 8 or 9 years, have really become worried about, hey, are our organizations diverse? Are they equitable? Are they inclusive? A good way to do that is listen to your organization, because there are people who look differently, talk differently. And I'm not talking about DI for its own sake, but rather uh, engaging people in a more fruitful way and valuing them as individuals rather than based on what they look like or how, what accent they may have.
So there's a lot of executives that are listening to this podcast, and probably at this point, I would hope that they're saying to themselves, yeah, okay, this whole concept makes sense. I'm in. And they're probably, saying, okay, obviously IdeaScale was one of the pioneers, the innovators in this space. But now I'm evaluating, IdeaScale versus some other options that I already have in place or might be looking at. If you were to highlight a couple of bullet points as to what really helps IdeaScale to stand out from the other solutions that are out there, what would those be?
Yeah. So firstly, my peers are great, right? So if you, but I think, yeah. So my peers are great, but I think there's three areas where we probably stand out really like head and shoulders better. Number one is ease of setup and ease of use. You can go to my website, sign up right now, and you'll be up and running in less than a minute and inviting all the members of your organization. Less than a minute, no downloads, super easy to set up, no corporate config stuff, whatever required, right? That's number one. Number two, and you can see that in the customer reviews, whatever. If you try it out, it's super easy. Number two is customer support. I offer 24/7, 365 customer support, live, free, totally included. And so, like at 11 p.m. on Christmas Eve, if you have a problem, you can talk to a human being. That is something that most organizations, both large and small tech companies, just don't offer in this day and age. And number three is security. So I am by far, and this is tested and proven, and I'll provide evidence in a second, by far the most secure solution, which matters a lot because people, some of our clients have incredibly sensitive data on there. This is their intellectual property, their new product ideas, their new program ideas. That's on my software. And so security matters when you're dealing with innovation or sometimes intellectual property, sometimes it's non-intellectual property related ideas. I'm FedRAMP qualified. That is one of the highest levels of security certification you need to do to be giving software to the U.S. government. So I'm the only one of my entire kind of innovation software competitive set that has that. It's incredibly difficult to get from a technology point of view, from an audit. Every year I get audited. One of the funny things is, look, I'm the CEO of the company. You can steal my computer, my device. You cannot get into our systems. Right. That's the level of security we have, that there's no, single point of failure. Everything is like, triple secured, both from a technology, people, process perspective. And so that level of security is really important for especially enterprise grade clients. And by enterprise grade, I mean any large organization wants to make sure their data is super secure. Our data is insanely secure.
And I'm sure that like SOC 2 and PCI and all of those other levels of security are kind of baked into the platform.
Exactly. So we're not SOC 2 qualified, but FedRAMP is basically analogous to SOC 2, which again is insanely difficult to get for anyone who does it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of and you touched on it, but I think one thing that a lot of innovative companies may or may not realize as they go for some of these areas of compliance, it's not just checking the boxes and getting certified, it's maintaining the certification, and that FedRAMP certification speaks
I go through
volumes.
I'm going through my annual audit this year, every year, and every year they point out areas of improvement or where the standards have changed, and we go do it, right, because it's the right thing to do. And I love telling my customers, like, hey, I can't even look, like, I'm the CEO of the company, I can't peek into your data. I literally don't have access to it unless you give me like written authorization, and then like I walk in.
I
Right?
love it. Yep. And as far as technology, and obviously you're a technology company, but like, what is the role of technology in enabling effective meritocracy programs? What do you see as like a higher level role of technology today?
I think, and I'll I think I'm going to answer for the broad. I'll attempt to answer for broad technology more broadly rather than
Sure.
just us. I think technology does three things extraordinarily well. Number one, it scales, and when something is scalable, that means it's cheap and accessible, right? Building, if you want to sell one candy bar versus a million candy bars, there's a fundamental cost to manufacture that candy bar, which makes it, more expensive for people who may not have, those economic resources, even for something as silly as a candy bar. So number one, technology is scalable, right? My software, if you're deploying it to, not just my software, Google software, right? When you're deploying it to a million people or a billion people, you can make it accessible to someone in a developing country or someone, who's on the lower socioeconomic end of a developed country as well. That's number one. It's incredibly scalable, which makes it accessible to a broader array of people. Number two is software is a leveling, software in general is a leveling. It's a levels the playing field in terms of skills, right? Look, there's a finite number of spots at MIT. So if you want an MIT degree, they only let in 1,000 people a year, right? You can't get an MIT degree or a Stanford degree or an Oxford degree or whatever, or an IIT degree for folks in India. That's a privileged status. But you want to become the world's best JavaScript coder or a Excel user or a video editor. Technology enables you to do that really cost effectively, right? The cost of a great video editing software is like $30-$40 a year. So somebody sitting in Nigeria or sitting in Japan or sitting in Texas, they can all become world-class at some form of technology without needing fancy degrees or certifications. And what's great is the job market now rewards that, especially over the last 10 years as we've moved to remote, or last 5 years since we've moved to remote. The world has started realizing credentialing matters less than actual skills, especially when you're, dealing with a global workforce. And third, I think technology is just fun, right? Like people like, new software is always coming out. And while it's kind of annoying that you have to learn new software, each new iteration of software, generation of software adds just powerful capabilities that were almost unimaginable like 5 or 6 years ago. So that's fun both at an individual level as well as at an organizational level, that you kind of always get to do new things and play with new tools and gadgets.
So, speaking to an executive who's making the decision to move forward with this type of solution, are there some specific metrics or KPIs that they should be using to measure the success of their meritocracy initiatives?
Sure. So I would say 3 things. Number one is engagement, right? If your idea meritocracy is the same, is the only the 8 executives in the boardroom who are contributing ideas and voting on each other's ideas, that's not an idea meritocracy. You've just taken what you were doing in a physical boardroom and stuck in the software, right? So number one, engagement. Are you engaging diverse people I mean, not diverse is the wrong word there, like a broader array of people? Are you engaging, 10% of your workforce, 20% of your workforce? Are you engaging 1% of your customers or 5% of your customers? So measure how engaged your audience is. That's number one. Number two, okay, measure whether the ROI of your ideas improve, right? So if you knew that the ROI of your innovation, of the ideas that came out of your innovation program was, 1,000% or $1 million this year, imagine once you implement a proper software like ours, did that ROI increase 2x, 3x, 5x, right? It should increase, but go measure it. Like, I'm pretty confident it increases. That's why customers come back to me every year, because they measure it. But go measure it, right? Do it for your own benefit, if not for mine.
So it's not just for fun that companies are rolling this out. They're seeing bottom line results.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Like, it would be like, I'm an ROI focused guy. Like, people make, they achieve their economic goals. For private sector organizations, that could be more money, better products, better employee retention through employee engagement. For public sector organizations, it could be, hey, have we, decreased the wait lines at the DMV, or how much time you're spending waiting for, to cross the TSA security check at an airport. TSA is a client of ours, right? I don't know if we've helped with that specific problem, but wouldn't that be nice? Like if the TSA was measuring, it takes you 10 minutes to get through airport security versus 20 versus 5. So measure the benefit based on whatever metrics matter to your organization before and after you implement a good idea management or innovation management solution. And number 3, see whether the ideas that are coming out are more diverse. And again, I don't mean diversity in the ethnic or cultural sense, but look, if you historically only had ideas for new products, see if ideas are coming out that are more innovative for your marketing program or for your internal processes or for what snacks you want in the office kitchen, right? Because a lot of organizations become very tunnel vision that we are like a tech company, our innovations are all going to be new features or new products. But hey, you probably need to get innovative in your marketing department or your HR department or your finance department. Actually, maybe finance is the one you want to be careful, because too much innovation there usually means to, like, creative accounting or fraud. But
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it.
finance is the one place where I joke that a little bit less innovation is a little bit better, because we want to make sure everything
There
is,
are generally accepted
by
principles,
the book
right?
there.
Yeah. So as far as organizations wanting to move from ideation to implementation, does the solution help with that, or does it just arm them with the knowledge that they need to make great implementation
So
decisions?
yeah, we have. I'll answer in three ways. Today we have a light project management solution. So if you don't need something super sophisticated, you can go right from idea to an implementation within our software. But that's a light solution. If you
Sure.
need something much more heavy hitting, our software then fully integrates with things like UTrack, Jira, Monday.com, Asana, all the classic full suite project management solutions. And then the third answer is, in about 9 months, we'll be coming out with our own kind of full project management solution as well. So today it's possible in kind of a light way, still doable, and it actually addresses about 70% of organizations' needs, just doing it within ours. But for the 30% that need a full complex project management solution, then you can push the data into whatever third party solution through API integrations.
Got it. Oh, that helps out a lot in terms of understanding the
Mhm.
next
Oh, but
steps.
actually, on that note, by the way, I didn't mention this, but as one of our key advantages, our data is entirely exportable. So we don't lock you in into our ecosystem. If you decide you want to leave us tomorrow, you could literally export all your data and import it into one of my competitors, because I'm that confident that, like, well, A, as an ethical principle, I don't trap your data within my software. I'm not a Roach Motel. Secondly, I'm
Sure.
that confident that my software is good enough. You're probably not going to leave. But you may push data to other solutions, which software should talk to each other as an ethical principle too.
Yeah, integrations are the lifeblood of any organization.
Mhm.
Um, so as far as trends that you see in the field, are there some big trends that you see taking place now, or as we're heading into the future, that would impact organizations looking in this area or across the
Sure. I'd
industry?
say kind of three things. Number one, more and more organizations are implementing formal innovation functions. If you look, 15 years ago, no one had a chief innovation officer. Now, about 1 in 4 Fortune 500 organizations have chief innovation officers. About 1 in 3 federal government agencies do as well now. So there's a trend to recognizing innovation as an important and critical business function that sits in the C-suite. Um, that's number one. Number two is innovation departments are increasingly becoming more sophisticated with the technology and processes they use. Rather than throw a bunch of people into a room and say, hey, you have a title of chief innovation officer and here's 5 people who report to you, a lot of them are saying, okay, here's actually best practices and best technologies to use. A good example of this is just about a month and a half ago, ISO, the International Standards Organization, came out with what's called ISO 56001, which is the standards for how you run an organization, best practices for running innovation management departments in your organization. So
I love it.
people are becoming better at this. It's not just people just doing whatever they want. There are right ways to do this, and those are becoming increasingly codified, both from a process and technology
A
perspective.
lot more black and white.
And
Yeah.
and then third, the technologies are becoming more sophisticated, right? The need, as our customers become more sophisticated and demand greater things and better things, all of our, both myself, my peers, and folks adjacent to me are becoming more sophisticated in the both the quality of the software that we offer, but as well as the feature set that we offer. Because, for example, as you just said, hey, do I offer project management? Not today, but that's something my customers are more and more demanding. That, hey, why do we have to push your data to Monday or Asana? Why don't you just do it in house? So I'm saying, okay, yeah, like I will build that, because my customers are more sophisticated and they make more demands of me, and therefore I need to respond to those demands, and that's true of my peers as well.
Makes a lot of sense. So, for larger organizations, and obviously, I can see the clear benefits and all of that. Can a smaller organization or startup benefit from implementing some of these ideas and
Yeah. So
functionalities?
firstly, for smaller organizations, my software is completely free. If they go to ideascale.com, if you're below 100 people or below 100 members on your team, our software is completely free forever. So highly recommend people to use that. Um, for smaller organizations, the benefit can be in one of two ways. Look, if you're a one person entrepreneur, you can basically use it as a notepad and as a self-ranking exercise, right? Rather than using Excel, it's basically a smarter version of Excel spreadsheet at that point, much smarter. or post-it notes, right? It's still better than 3M, still better than Excel for the kind of a thoughtful note-taking and idea ranking tool as an individual. For small organizations or startups, it's actually it's still quite useful as it would be for large organizations, because a small organization, the problem is, look, let's imagine you're a startup. You just have a million things going on. You're not sitting down thoughtfully and evaluating your strategy. You're worried about like making payroll today, selling to customers today,
Yeah.
dealing with your venture capitalists. There's a lot of stuff going on. You don't have the luxury that like large organizations do to sit back and be contemplative, right? Because you're hustling every day at a small organization.
Sure.
This provides a automatic way to be contemplative without having to set a meeting, right? I can go into IdeaScale, my IdeaScale community, which is at ideas.ideascale.com, and look at in 30 seconds what are the ideas that my community, which is my employees, my customers, my prospects, random students, are saying are good or bad about our marketing campaigns, about our product, new features that we should have, etc. That takes 30 seconds, doesn't require me to have a board meeting or a meeting with anyone, and so can anyone in my organization. Actually, not just my organization. You can go to that right now and see what features my community thinks are good or bad, and you can participate in that.
And I think that's a really important point that we probably haven't covered enough. So for any organization, the community is both internal and external to their organization.
Right? It depends on what your needs are, right? Like a pharmaceutical company may want to keep their new molecule data private, but you can also engage it. So I have, for example, some super secret stuff that I am private to my employees, and I have some public stuff where anybody can participate.
So there could be multiple.
You can have as many variations. You can have it by department, right? We have one campaign that is restricted just to my engineers, not because it's actually secret in my market. It's just not relevant to my marketing.
Relevant other,
right? Yeah. It's actually, that one's never mind. That's actually still accessible by my marketing people. It's just they never participate in it because it's what code language are we switching to? So yeah, you can have it by department. You can cut the access rights and this is now getting into like a config level, but you can cut the access rights as many ways as you want, right? You can have it by geography, by department, by language, by internal, external. Even in external, you can restrict it to invited external users versus a true public.
Yeah, and so it's obviously a very mature solution, and I would agree with you. I mean, I think for many of the SaaS solutions that are featured on the podcast, I think integrations are probably the lifeblood of the growth of a lot of the solutions. It's an increasingly connected world, so it's so important.
Yeah, software that doesn't talk to software is you're basically doing yourself and your customers a disservice by locking their data in, right? The power of computers, the power of the internet is machines talk to each other. Information moves from you to me and back to a third person. That's the power of software and of the internet. And if you're not using that in your software, like you're basically making your software mute, and that is absurd.
So Nick, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this as a final question, because you sit in such a unique space and have such an amazing bird's eye overview of so many different companies, in this space implementing these ideas. If someone were listening to the podcast and you were to provide them with some advice as a leader on fostering a culture of innovation within their organization, what would you suggest to them?
I'd say give two pieces of advice. Number one, philosophically, everyone needs to be innovating. If you're not, just remember your competitors are, right? No matter how successful you are, you need to be innovating every single day. Your organization needs to be innovating every single day. Otherwise, you will very quickly become outdated, anachronistic, and outcompeted. And we're seeing some very notable examples of that in the market today, right? Intel, Boeing, which have been just hallmarks of innovation for decades, are now falling apart because they've not been as innovative as some of their peers. The second, more tactically, is create incentives for innovation within your organization. And I'll give two specific examples. Number one, most organizations don't reward employees for being innovative or for coming up with creative ideas. Reward your employees. Again, that could be with money, with promotions, with acknowledgement, whatever it is, right? The second is stop penalizing your employees for trying to be innovative, because innovation necessarily means creativity, and creativity most of the time fails, right? Like 99, or I don't know, maybe not 99, but 90% of the ideas that come out of my mouth are stupid ideas. And if you are going to judge me based on my hit rate, my batting average is 100. That's terrible.
Okay.
And too many companies assess their employees by their batting averages, but creativity necessarily, innovation necessarily has a terrible batting average, right? So stop penalizing your employees for trying new things. Reward them, or at least, reward them for accomplishing great things, but also stop penalizing them for taking the risk to try new things.
I love it. I love it. And that's so important. So, anyways, Nick Jain, CEO of IdeaScale, thank you so much for sharing with us and joining us on the Software Spotlight today.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Michael. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.